holidays nale, adu namma GT Holidays da. South India's #1 travel brand.
Sheenlac Speciality Coatings, always shining Sheenlac.
GUVI, இந்தியாவின் தலை சிறந்த vernacular edtech brand, skilling everyone, everywhere.
Welcome to Galatta plus Ashok Amritraj, one of the OG
It's great
South
to be
Asians,
here.
South Asians in Hollywood. Today, when I hear about Indian films doing well in America, or Indian producers going and trying to pitch stuff in America, you're one of the people that laid the bricks for that road, so to speak. And let's talk about your journey there, the early days, what it was like to be a brown man in white Hollywood, a very white Hollywood at that point. You probably had maybe a handful of black filmmakers, but otherwise it was a very, very white Hollywood. But before that, let's talk about the more pressing question. You're here a day before the release of Indian 2, which has been directed by Shankar, who you produced Jeans for.
Sure.
Would you say he, at that time, was one of the OG big thinkers, thinking big guys?
I don't think at that time. I think he got. By the way, first of all, it's great to be here with you.
Thank you.
Shankar is a friend, and we had a great time doing Jeans together. When I had made Double Impact, and I was making a few other Hollywood films in the 90s, I had this nostalgic feeling about coming back to India and wanting to make a movie here. So obviously coming back here, I needed to do something out of Chennai because that's kind of what I always gravitate towards.
Right. And that's home for you, yeah.
It's home for me. It's where I went to Don Bosco and Loyola College. And, this was, and my love for movies came from Sapphire Theatre and Anand and Blue Diamond and all of these great, wonderful, big screen theatres,
Yeah.
And so I listened to a lot of filmmakers here with stories and all of that. And then Shankar came along and we had a chat, and he had this lovely story that we talked about, and it all came together. And Ash was staying down the street at one of the hotels, so I went to chat with her, and she signed on, and she had just come out of Miss World, and it all came together. And of course, my junior from Don Bosco, Rahman, did the music, and it was fantastic. It was quite an experience.
You just rattled off a whole bunch of things that are so beloved to me. Double Impact, which means Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yes.
Because my teen and college years were filled with these movies, right? Steven Seagal and movies that...
It feels like we are going back in time, but it's actually not that long ago.
But today's memory being what it is, and the instant era that we live in, it seems like centuries ago.
Yeah.
And then Blue Diamond, where I remember there used to be continuous shows.
Yes.
So you could walk in during half a film, watch till the end, and then watch the beginning.
Keep watching.
After that, and then Sapphire with the big screen, where you apparently saw The Sound of Music 33 times.
I did. I watched The Sound of Music 33 times. It was sort of, I was in love with the oldest daughter, so it was one of those, it was a love affair.
Okay, now I'm beginning to understand why.
So was it just that?
So this is the daughter that sang, I'm 16 going on 17.
Exactly.
Right.
Now, many years later, I was at the Academy of Motion Pictures. I was the first producer to get in there, and very, very early, it was 92.
You were the first South Asian producer to get there?
The first producer to be in the Academy. Right? To be in the Academy of Motion Pictures.
The first
South Asian producer to be in there.
Yeah.
And at that time, they used to take to all in, they would have 4 people join the Academy. Because for 100 years, it stayed at 5,000 members. And then the last, 7 years, it's gone to 10,000. They added 5,000 more because of diversity and inclusion.
Yeah.
All of which is great. But at that time, it was 3% diverse. All inclusive, black, brown, So it was a fascinating time because I was on the Foreign Awards Committee, where we picked the best foreign films to nominate and so on and make all the rules. And Bob Wise, who directed Sound of Music, was sitting next to me on the committee. So I said to him, Bob, I watched the movie 33 times. He said, that's where the money came from in India. So I said, you're the one who got me into trouble.
Right. So when you say that you were the first South Asian producer to be part of the Academy Awards
Yeah,
voting
Academy
committee.
Motion Pictures, yeah.
It was only the foreign films that you voted for, or
Oh,
for
no, no,
all
no.
categories?
No, no, yeah. You're a member of the Academy of Motion Pictures.
So you vote across.
There are different branches: actors, directors, producers. I'm in the producers branch, always have been. But I was the first South Asian producer to get into the Academy of Motion
Right.
Pictures.
Today we find like a Deepika Padukone presenting an Oscar, or Rahman accepting an Oscar, or the RRR team being represented at the Oscars
Right.
with this fantastic performance,
Right.
dance performance. But when you in your early days attended an Oscar ceremony,
Yeah.
it was a largely white ceremony, right?
Yeah, largely in that you couldn't find, you had to look very carefully to find a black or brown face. Brown faces, there were none. I was probably the only one. But it was a very white business.
Right.
Every studio, every television network, every publishing house, it was completely a white business. So it was not easy.
What was that journey like to kind of, okay, right. So we know, yes, of course, the tennis is there, and the the fact that the first Amritraj brother that I saw on screen was Vijay Amritraj in the James Bond film Octopussy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So that's something that was a big thrill for people.
Yeah,
like
wonderful,
in the class, because
wonderful.
it was like, what, Vijay Amritraj, that became the attraction.
Yes.
Not Roger Moore. Roger Moore was like, okay,
I
that's
don't know about that, but
no,
yes.
but here I'm talking about
Yeah,
Chennai,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like Vijay Amritraj.
Yeah.
That became the
Yeah.
attraction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think he's killed very soon in the movie.
He is in a very brutal kind of manner, actually.
Yes.
But it was a lot of fun. And Barbara Broccoli, who now produces the Bond film, is a very, very close friend of mine. And we have 2 movies together, in fact, that we are developing at studios. In the early days, I went to America to play tennis. And Jerry Buss, who owned the LA tennis team, brought me out there after I'd reached the finals of the Wimbledon Juniors. And then in 1978, we won the World Team Tennis Championship. I was MVP. I remember he gave me the keys to a Burgundy Jaguar, which was rather nice as my bonus. And then in the early 80s, I got into the entertainment industry and met a lot of people through tennis. Sidney Poitier was a friend. Chuck Heston was a friend. So there were a lot of...
So Charlton Heston played tennis, therefore he became a friend?
He did.
Okay.
They all used to come to the matches at the Forum. And then we actually used to spend time on his tennis court on Benedict Canyon or with Sidney Poitier at the Beverly Hills Tennis. Sidney became a very dear friend. We'd stay having lunch once every couple of months. And Sean Connery was a big tennis fan. Roger Moore was a big tennis. So it was tennis was at a sort of meteoric rise before pre-Tiger Woods and a lot of the other things that took off. Tennis obviously still extremely popular, but at that point it was a really incredible time. So in the 80s, early 80s, when I decided to make the switch, I had, ignorance is bliss. So I had no idea how hard it was going to be. I said, I know a lot of people and I know people at the studios. So how hard can this business be, right? I jumped in. Sherry Lansing was running 20th Century Fox at that time. She gave me what's called a development deal, and we developed some stuff together. And however, everybody liked seeing me on their tennis courts on Saturday morning, but nobody wanted to make a movie with me, right? So I knew all these people, but my tennis actually in many ways opened doors, but also closed doors in a different way. And of course, an Indian or South Asian, whatever, tennis player trying to be a producer in Hollywood, there's something that picture doesn't seem to make a lot of sense, right? So it took me quite a while to make my first movie. It was also a time when I'm really going back, I'm dating myself, in the 80s when it was the video cassettes were coming along. So it was Betamax and VHS, right? And it was glory days because VHS cassettes were being sold for $90, right? $90. So I made a bunch of movies for HBO and Showtime and all of these channels. and a producer called Roger Corman, who was sort of
Yeah,
an
yeah.
iconic producer who we made 6 movies together.
He's
became
the
a-
one who brought Jack Nicholson into the movies.
Jack Nicholson, Martin Scorsese,
Yeah, yeah.
Ron Howard, I mean, a lot of wonderful filmmakers. So we made 6 movies together. He became a very dear friend. In 1984, I met this young man, and he came up to my office and, I said, "What do you do for a living?" He said, "I drive limos." He said, "I act." I said, "What do you do for money?" He said, "I drive limos." We tried to make a movie together. Everybody kicked us out. And then in 1990, he came. I was at the Cannes Film Festival, and he came back and said, "Out of 800 photographs I sent out, you're the only guy to call me back." And his name was Jean-Claude Van Damme. And we made Double Impact and made it for 11 million. It grossed over 100 million, and I was on the right track. so then I became a member of the Academy the year after. And then it went from there. 120 movies later and $2 billion later, it was been pretty good.
Yeah. And your company, Hyde Park Entertainment, turns 25 this year.
True.
So
Yeah.
that's a
Yes.
big milestone.
In today's world, it is. In Hollywood, the companies that kind of started with me have all been either sold or gone under, or there's been some extraordinary evolution of the movie industry. I think like never before. There was a time when you went from, it's almost like talking cinema from silent cinema. I mean, it's that big a change. TV and video and DVD and all of that was additional revenue. It didn't philosophically change the business. What we are going through now is a real change in our business that, we'll have to see. It's still shaking out over the last 4 or 5 years. Streamers came in, pandemic hit, everybody started getting very comfortable with viewership at home. TV series got better. I think arguably movies got a bit are not as good as they used to be. And and then you had these couple of giants here like Marvel and Pixar and all of them doing visual effects stuff and cutting edge technology. So you came to this nexus of technology and media. That is where we are now, because Netflix and Amazon and Apple are all tech companies, right?
Yeah.
They are sort of 100 times the size of Paramount, which just got sold, or Warner's or any of these other places. It's a tricky navigation. We have a number of movies on our slate today, which, we have movies at Paramount, we have movies at Universal, but at the same time, we also pay equal attention, obviously, to all the streamers,
Right. That's a way to keep yourself afloat, I guess. So,
Yeah.
But let's just talk about the 2 Indian films.
Yes.
When Shankar comes to you with the idea for Jeans, right?
Yeah.
Did you already know that this is going to cost a lot of money, even though, I'm a Hollywood producer, I can afford it, but it's still like a pretty big chunk of change?
I knew it was going to cost a lot of money, but I wasn't necessarily prepared for the mode of working, which is very different to this day, I think, from Hollywood, where you sign an actor for a movie in a certain amount of time, and he a number of weeks of rehearsal or costumes or whatever, and you don't stop and start. Which you tend to do here because of actors' schedules and so on. Jeans was particularly interesting because we had a wonderful cast that all were busy, in different ways. So all things being equal, we still did it in a reasonable period of time by Indian standards.
Which was how long?
I think start to finish about 18 months.
Start as in from narration to release?
Not quite. From the Muhurtam, which was here on a rainy day, to finish.
Okay.
To the release of the movie, which was, and then in '98 it was the pick for the Oscars from India. It was a terrific experience. It had its challenges, but all in all, when I look back at it, it was it fulfilled my longing to come and make a movie here.
But then, was it, when you say terrific experience, usually when we have a terrific experience, we want to repeat it. But you never come back and made another Tamil movie after that.
That's true. It's a combination of things. My career in Hollywood has gone so well. You know, I was making movies with, and I continue to make movies with, The Rock, Angelina Jolie, Sandra Bullock, Nick Cage, Andrew Garfield most recently. It's hard to take 18 months to 2 years out because Indian films kind of take personal attention. It's very difficult.
It's not clockwork?
It's not. You can't just hand off to somebody here and say, I'll see you in a year and a half. You know, it's not, and I'm not surrounded here by sort of loyal, trusted people. So it's tricky to stop. It's also significantly smaller as an industry. If I'm making Ghost Rider for $100 million, it's still significantly smaller here in many ways, including the marketplace is smaller. It's huge here by Indian standards and by all of the things that have been happening the last 5 years, don't get me wrong. It's grown in leaps and bounds, right, the numbers. But compared to a Hollywood major film, it's not, if you had to make choices, so, but it's that on the one hand, and more importantly, it's the time, commitment. I did do a couple of things. Obviously, I did Bloodstone earlier on. I did a movie called The Other End of the Line with Shreya and Anupam Kher and some others. I also hosted a show called Gateway to Hollywood, which I enjoyed doing, which took about a month of my time. So that was fine. And the young man who won it is talented. His name is Bijoy Nambiar, who's gone on to make movies and do well. I did a thing called Chance of a Lifetime with the United Nations, and we did that. So there's always been a connect, and it's been great. But to come back and make a movie, I'd have to be incredibly passionate to do it. Not saying that I wouldn't, but I get pitched stuff all the time. Every time I'm here, somehow people know I've come, and directors, actors, all of that. And it's gotten, interesting because everybody wants to try to look globally at stuff, and, we'll see.
Because now would seem the right time. Let's say you got together with a director like S.S. Rajamouli, who's making these movies that are now being, people in the West are looking at them, and not just the diaspora, not just the Indians, but
Right.
there are non-Indians really looking at Indian cinema. So that might be a good time for you to jump in. But let me ask you one thing. Why do you think that, despite the fact that we have so many people here, we have so many film crazy people here, people who go to the movies quite a bit, why do you think the business is still so small when compared to like a Hollywood or something?
Well, first of all, you have different languages, right?
So each one is its own.
Each one is its own. If you put it all together, it's a little bit different. So each, Telugu is very big, Tamil, Hindi, and so on. So you have all these interesting filmmakers. You have terrific actors. You have fantastic crew. You have to make choices in a way. I always tell filmmakers who come to see me, you have to make choices as to who you're making the movie for. It's very difficult to make a movie for the person in Madurai and in Iowa, right? So you just have to walk that line if you're talking about trying to do a global movie. The guys who've done it pretty well in both film and TV are some of the filmmakers in South Korea. So they made a movie called Parasite, which did very well. They did Squid Game, which did very well.
Yeah.
They've done a bunch of movies that have done quite well in Hollywood, and not necessarily visual effects movies. Storytelling, which is an art, which is what I'm interested in more so than. I've done visual effects movies. I've done 2D, 3D. I've pretty much done everything, but I lean more into storytelling, which I think certainly at this point I'm even more into because it's kind of missing even more so than it was when movies like Gandhi got made and Chariots of Fire and all of the great movies of its time, and even movies like Memento and Chris Nolan's early movies and all that. All of Chris Nolan's movies are fantastic. So he's an exception to the rule. The VFX movies are a certain category of film, whether it's Marvel or DC or whoever it may be. The animation probably does better than all the other movies, and that's a specific category. The movies that tend to suffer these days are movies that tell stories.
Yeah. You spoke about Bloodstone, so let's conclude with that. What was it like meeting Rajinikanth, who was, the top star, one of the top stars of the Tamil film industry at that point in time? I want to know how that project happened with him.
Well,
so you had a story.
Yes, we did.
And you needed somebody
Indian
from
actor.
an Indian actor.
Yeah.
Right. And you said, I want a Tamil actor.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Now you're taking me back in time quite a ways. I knew him prior to that.
Okay.
Through tennis and through family and all of that.
Rajnikant play tennis?
No. I wish he did,
Okay.
but no.
Yeah.
I don't think he does. At least he hasn't gotten on the tennis court with me.
Right.
Maybe
No, because
it's
you
just
said
me. I don't know.
you said through
But-
tennis,
No, through tennis because we obviously played here and in tournaments and this and that, and he was familiar with us and we were familiar obviously with him. And Lata is a very dear friend, and we're at this point it's more family friends. But at that time we sort of knew each other, So when we talked about doing something with a terrific Indian actor, he was the top choice. Who else would you go to in the south of India? And so luckily, he responded to it, and so from there it was quite organic. He was incredibly professional, absolutely a gentleman and wonderful, and so it was terrific. The movie did well. It was the first of its kind. I've been blessed to. I've done a lot of firsts, so it's been that was great. The first time ever that I think anybody in Asia crossed $100 million box office when we made Double Impact. So Jeans was one of its kind with the Seven Wonders of the World and all of that. While I wanted to shoot the Seven Wonders of the World on a soundstage in Warner Brothers, Shankar wanted to go to all the 7 places around the world, which we ended up doing. So it's been great. It continues to be great. My daughter works with me now, so that's wonderful. What I will say about India is I would love to make perhaps a film that shows modern India in all of its glory, the way it is today, because everything you see is either visual effects or you see Slumdog Millionaire or you see the LA Times, and it's all about the poverty and all of that, which exists in every country today, including Los Angeles or San Francisco. So I think there is a modern day, to show India the way it is as being one of the most important economies and geopolitically strategic places in the world. I think would be great to do something about that.
Great. So that's what somebody has to pitch to Ashok Amritraj next. I hope that happens
would be
soon.
Interesting.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Holidays nale adu namma GT Holidays da, South India's #1 travel brand.
Sheenlac Speciality coatings, always shining. Sheenlac.
GUVI, இந்தியாவின் தலை சிறந்த vernacular edtech brand, skilling everyone everywhere.